There is a moment, just before a World Cup final, when 80,000 people hold their breath at exactly the same time. You can feel it. A silence so complete it becomes its own kind of roar. One ball. Two teams. And the entire planet, watching. This is not just a sport. This is the story of who we are. It begins in Uruguay. 1930, a country that built a stadium in 100 days, for a tournament the world almost didn't bother to show up for. Only 13 nations made the journey. Most of Europe stayed home. The prize? A gold trophy. A title no one had ever held. And something else, something no one had words for yet. The chance to say, we are the best on earth. 93,000 people packed into the Estadio Centenario for the final. Uruguay versus Argentina. Neighbors. Rivals. Two nations that had never wanted anything more in their lives. When the final whistle blew, Uruguay wept. And the world, finally, paid attention. For the next 3 decades, the World Cup belonged to the Europeans and the South Americans. Until 1958. Until a 17-year-old boy from Brazil took the stage in Sweden, and broke every rule of what football was supposed to be. Pelé. 17 years old. Crying in the arms of teammates after the final whistle, not out of sadness, but because joy that size has nowhere else to go. He would win it again. And again. But nothing would ever be quite like the first time a boy became a god on the world's biggest stage. The World Cup had found its language. And that language was genius. Then came Mexico. 1986, and a man who contained multitudes. Diego Maradona. In the space of 4 minutes, he committed the most infamous act in World Cup history, and then produced the greatest goal the game has ever seen. First, the hand of God. A fist where a head should have been. A cheat that became a myth. And then, he picked up the ball in his own half, beat 5 Englishmen, and slid it past the goalkeeper with the gentleness of someone putting a child to bed. 2 goals. 1 man. Every contradiction the World Cup has ever held, made human. Maradona didn't just play football. He made you believe that individual genius could outrun an entire world. But the World Cup is not only a story of triumph. It is equally a story of ruin. Roberto Baggio stepping up to the penalty spot in Pasadena, 1994. The entire weight of Italy on the back of his neck. He shoots, and the ball rises, over the bar, and into a history he will never escape. Zinedine Zidane, the greatest of his generation, walking off the pitch in Berlin 2006 with a red card in the final of his last World Cup. Not for a goal. For a headbutt. Germany 2014. Brazil on home soil. The dream collapsing in real time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 goals conceded. A nation watching through its hands. The World Cup does not protect you from yourself. That is what makes it unbearable. That is what makes it everything. And yet, through every heartbreak, new champions were always waiting. France 1998, Zinedine Zidane rising at the perfect moment, before the world knew what he would later do to end his own story. Spain 2010, a nation that had waited forever, Iniesta's extra-time winner, tears streaming down his face as he pointed to the sky. Argentina 2022, Lionel Messi, the man who had carried a country on his back for 2 decades, finally lifting the trophy in Qatar. His hands shaking. His eyes somewhere far away. For a generation of fans who had waited their entire lives to see it happen, that moment felt less like sport, and more like justice. And now, we are here. The United States. Canada. Mexico. 2026, 48 nations. 16 cities. The biggest World Cup in the history of the game. A tournament so large it barely fits inside one country, so it spills across 3. New York. Los Angeles. Dallas. Toronto. Mexico City. The stadiums are ready. The world is coming. This is not just another tournament. This is the 100th year of a story that began with 13 nations in a half-finished stadium in Montevideo, and grew into the most watched sporting event on the planet. Right now, somewhere in the world, a 17-year-old is warming up for the match that will define the rest of their life. A nation is holding its breath. And a ball is waiting at the center circle. The next great moment of the World Cup has not happened yet. You are here. You are watching. History is still being written. 100 years. 22 tournaments. A trophy that has been lifted by 8 nations, and chased by billions more. The World Cup is not a competition. It never was. It is a mirror. It shows us our grief and our joy in the same breath. It shows us that 17-year-olds can be gods, and that gods can miss penalties. It shows us that nations separated by oceans and languages and centuries of history can be united by 90 minutes and one ball. Whatever happens in 2026, whatever goals are scored, whatever dreams are broken or made, will one day be the archive footage someone else uses to tell this story again. The story of football's greatest stage. It started in Uruguay in 1930. It is not finished yet. And neither are you.